Shalom, shalom, real motivation. Terrence McKinney back with a new video. Off top, I want to give all praises to the Most High. Today's video is going to be called Don't Let That Felony Stop You, Chapter 3, Image Identity. Image identity is something that everybody go through at one point in their life, and somebody right now going through that where they having problems, or they having images about the image, or they having issues about their identity. When I say their identity, I mean like who they are, like looking in the mirror and being content with the person they see every day. And we go through this constantly. And so today, I'm gonna read out of my book, Don't Let That Felony Stop You. Chapter 3 is called Image and Identity. And I'm just going to get some commentary. I'm going to read the whole chapter, and I'm going to give commentary when needed. Like, a lot of the stuff is like self-explanatory, so it's not necessary for me to give comments and commentary on every point, but it is. I do want to give a little bit more feedback and go a little deeper in details on why I wrote specific passages or what I'm talking about, so everybody can relate to it. Okay, chapter 3. Who are you? What's your identity? I think one of the biggest problems we face is identifying who we are. I'm not talking about the name and information on your ID. I'm talking about the person you see in the mirror. We need to constantly ask ourselves, if the image in the mirror is accurate, does the person you see give off the reputation that you want? And commentary right here. So, like, when we look in the mirror, we need to be content, and we need to know that that's the person that we content with. We don't need to be going on by no stereotypes or what society wants us to be, what our parents want us to be, what anybody wants us to be. When we look in the mirror, we need to be content with what we see, and that needs to be a true representation of how we feel. Okay, let's keep going. We first need to establish who we want to be. You don't have to be a criminal or from the streets to have identity issues. We all struggle with who we are and who we want to be. Our parents, guardians, and environment play a huge role in how we see ourselves. We can have either a strong self-image or it can be destroyed. It took me 38 years to find out who I really was and who I want to become. I have been so many different people all over the years, all depending on who I was interacting with and where. I have been a good kid and a bad kid, a straight A and a straight F student, a drug dealer, a gangster, a robber, a rapper, an entrepreneur, a boss, an author, a mentor, a father, a husband, and a motivational speaker. I can add more to this list. The point is, we wear many different hats in our life. We just have to make sure the hat we choose is the one we really want. All right, commentary. And that's true, man. I mean, when I sit back and think about over my life, all the things that I wanted to be and how that was always changing, it goes on and on and on and on. I mean, I wanted to be a football player, wanted to be a basketball player, wanted to be, just that's where I'm saying where the identity issue choose from. I don't really know if I wanted to be all those things, or I just felt like some of those things may be something I can be at the moment. Some of those things might be something that can get me rich. It was always something else, and going into a lot of those things. The things like husband, father, mentor, and stuff like that. That's stuff that I actually wanted to be. Like, but I can't ever say when I was a kid, that I wanted to be a drug dealer. Like, that ain't something I wanted to do. That's something that I felt like it was a quick fix. It was a way for me to get rich, and the money was easy, and I ain't have to work for nobody else, and I can just get a whole lot of money real quick. The same way with robber and a gangster and everything else. Those was quick fixes to the problems. Those was like, okay, I can do this. If I go take this from this person, now that I got it. or at one point in my time, my mind was so corrupted, you know, with the neighborhood, and I hate to say it, but really listening to a lot of rap music, that I started believing all the lyrics that I heard, everything I see. So I wanted to be a gangster. I wanted to run around with guns. I wanted to do stuff to people, and that's a part of me that uh, I no longer do those things, or I no longer live a lifestyle. But when I sit back on it, at that point in time in my life, I really wanted to do those things. Uh, Same thing with rapper. I mean, that was another thing. You know, I was always passionate about music. Once I did all those gangster things in the streets, I wanted to talk about it. And to me, that was another quick fix, another way to get rich, and really not have to work hard, you know, for your money, or work hard, you know, uh, to get a big house, or to get a nice car, or to get any of those things. And so a lot of stuff that we do sometimes don't be necessarily what we want to do. Is the situations that we get put in to force us to do some of those things. And then when you see stuff, it becomes the norm. I mean, when you see that stuff every single day, and there's a lot of people around you doing it, then it's normal for you to do those things, and you really don't think twice about it, because you see everybody in your environment doing those things. So you really don't give it no second thought. You be like, okay, well, forget it. I'm just gonna do what he doing. I see him doing it, and I see him living a good life off of it. And when we think about it, we never think about the bad stuff. So that's what I'm saying when I say I don't wear many hats in my life, because a lot of times we do so many things, and we be so many different people during our life, and some of those things we never thought about really being them. We just wind up doing them, and that's not a good representation of who we really are. All right, let's keep going. When reclaiming our identity, we have to be willing to let go of the person we have been. In the streets, we may have 10 aliases, each with a different story to go along with them. We have to be willing to bury those names and embrace our God-given ones on our birth certificates. You also have to consider why you want to be called something you're known for but no longer doing. Just think about how actors get irritated when people see them out in public and they call them their stage name or character name instead of the real one. In the hood, I was known as the Don because I ran the block. I had another alias called Pretty Grimy. It was a street rap name. Pretty came from me being a ladies' man, while Grimy came from me doing whatever it took to get the money. T was all the people I sold. T was what all the people I sold drugs to called me. Nobody called me Terrence, not since high school. A nice starting point for me was to identify who Terrence McKinney Jr. was. What are your aliases? Do they represent who you want to be? That's another thing. I mean, we gotta get away from the aliases, man, because everybody out there got an alias. And whatever your alias come from, it's a story to go along with that. And that story might not represent who we want to be. And sometimes we don't even give ourselves those aliases. You can do something, you know, you can be out with your friends, and you know, you can get a big rock, and you know, everybody be skipping pebbles across the pond, and you throw a rock in the pond, and next thing you know, everybody start calling you Rock. And the next thing you know, stories and more stuff, you know, start getting added on to that alias and everything else under that name Rock. And before you know it, you rock. And you got a whole story to go behind it, but it's something that you never wanted for yourself. And that's the same thing with these different aliases, because, I mean, I'm telling you, every time, you know, somebody would call me something, I knew where they knew me from. Like, you know, anytime somebody be calling me T, I knew I sold drugs to them. Or anytime somebody called me Pretty Grimy, I knew it was somebody who seen one of my music videos, or who might have came to my shows, or somebody who knew me from rapping or the music industry, and so on and so on. And it's a whole lot more aliases people call me about it. But the older I get, and the older I got, is when I wanted to detach my name from all those aliases, man. And I just wanted to be called, you know, because Terrence, like, you know. And a lot of people who called me Terrence was people I went to high school with, and it went a gap in between my life. I say when I graduated high school, maybe until the first time people started calling me Terrence again, to be honest with you, was when I was in prison for like 3 years after I graduated from high school. But then once I got out of prison, I didn't hear the name Terrence maybe again for about like 10 or 15 years. So, and the only people who called me Terrence was people who knew my name was Terrence or my real government. And I really wanted to find out who Terrence was and shake all those aliases off, because those aliases always come with a story, and some of that stuff that I'm not proud of to this day that came with those aliases. So at some point in our life, we gotta drop those aliases, and we just gotta go back to our God-given name. Let's keep going. And I said it won't be that much commentary, but I guess it's a lot of stuff that's bringing up talking points right now. On our identity quest, we have to return to our childhood to remember what we wanted when our minds were pure, before our parents, society, and our environment told us what we had to be. When you were in kindergarten, what did you want to be when you grew up? Are you doing that now? What changed from now to then? I know what changed if you're not currently doing what you love. Someone else's opinion or thoughts push you to do something different. Me writing this book is a true testament to that. I wrote my last book 30 years ago when I was in first and second grade. I was part of a club called Young Authors, where we write books on whatever our imagination told us. We would send our best writing in at the beginning of the school year and hope that it would be published. I had 2 books published, 1 a year. I remember the excitement and joy that gave me. I don't know why I stopped writing, but writing these books give me the same feeling I had 30 years ago. And that's true. I mean, you gotta go back to your childhood, and you gotta think about what you wanted to do when your thoughts were pure, when when nobody influence carried in the world, when you just wanted to be this, and you wanted to be this, not because your father was that, and sometimes it could have been your father or somebody who was actually that, and you might like that, but not because of nobody else, what you wanted to do. If you really wanted to be that football player, if you really wanted to be that basketball player, if you really wanted to be that doctor, you need to go back to when your thoughts was pure and you wanted to do something because you strictly had the love for doing it, or you strictly wanted to be that. And that's the same way with writing this book. I mean, because like I said, it took me 30 years to write a book. And when I was in first and second grade, I wrote them back to back consecutively, 2 years in a row, and they was actually good books. They got published, and I can tell you where them books are at right now. And so we got to go back to our childhood, before we cared about what other people thought about us and what society thought about us. And we got to figure out what we wanted to be then, because that's a lot of times it's the same things that we want to be now. And a lot of times those dreams that was installed inside of us never die. And that's a lot of times the reason why we go astray, because we not knowing what we want to do. We doing what somebody else wants us to do. On searching for our true image, we have to let go of the labels we put on ourselves. For me, it was gangster, hustler, drug dealer, and thug. This is what I called myself, what I thought I was. So I embodied those qualities. The more you tell yourself something, the more you believe it, and the more it becomes your walk of life. I was willing to do anything that fell under those labels. So what labels do you attach to your name? And that's just something for y'all to think about. What labels you attach to your name. Whatever they is, shred them and let them go. And get a piece of paper, whatever you attach to yourself, and write down everything that you do that's associated with that label. Labels can be changed. You don't have to be any of those things. The power of choice allows us to be what we choose. We just have to be willing to embrace positive new labels. The battle starts in the mind first. Deciding who and what you want to become is a major part. It is not easy to change habits or lifestyle overnight, and you can't begin to change unless you know what you want to change it to. Telling yourself that you want to change without a plan will just lead you to do the same thing you have always done. As I stated earlier, it took me 15 years to completely change. Or I should say, it took me 15 years to come up with a plan. My image was 80% of the problem. I felt like I had to live up to the level of gangster that I created. Everyone's perception was that I was a big time drug dealer and I would always be. The respect and love made me not want to leave the streets, and I would dabble in and out over the next 10 to 15 years, caught in the cycle. Whenever I wasn't focused on doing something positive, hustling will always resurface. It's like watching scary movies when you were young, where the kids would play with Ouija boards. The board would say something they didn't like, so they would try to get rid of it, but the board would always come back. That's exactly how I was living my life. I always came back to hustling. It didn't matter if I was up or down. Hustling and being a gangster always showed their face. And that's true. A lot of times, we like some of the benefits that come with some of those labels and some of those names. And with me, it was an ongoing struggle, with selling drugs. I mean, because it was always a good way to get extra money. It was always a good way to come up on this. And it took me a while to change. Like, nobody changed overnight. I mean, some of us change faster than others, but it ain't never just like, all right, you wake up the next day and cold turkey all your bad habits. It don't work like that. Like, even I done grew so much in the last 2 years. I probably grew so much in the last 2 years than I grew in my life. But I'm gonna even say 3 years. I say the last 3 years I done grew so much more than I grew in my life. But it's still so many bad habits that I'm still battling with every single day. And I'm mentally stronger or physically stronger, and I'm in a position that I've never been before, but it's still bad habits that I'm trying to break every single day. Like, sometimes I might say something about somebody that I shouldn't say, and the minute it come out of my mouth, I know I shouldn't have said it, but yet I'm still battling with that. It's so many habits, and a lot of times, like I said, like with me, it was everybody else's perception is something that I had to deal with. Like, and everybody wanted me to be this person because that's who they knew I was. And the respect and the love everybody showed me, like, it just was hard, walking away from that and just letting that go. But at the end of the day, once I thought about it, if those people really love me and they really respect me, then they should respect anything I'm doing, and they should love me for me. And that's something that I had to come to grip with, and I had to come to terms with, and I had to let that part go. Okay, let me keep going. I'm sorry if I keep sniffing. I ain't had my coffee this morning. Image is nothing. Obey your thirst. That was the lead slogan for Sprite in the 90s and one of the biggest commercials at the time. It shows a guy getting pumped up to do something. Then he fails, and the slogan will pop up. The most memorable moment was when a guy trying to dunk like an NBA player and getting caught on the rim. I still remember the commercial like it was yesterday because of the message. I wish I understood it at the time, because the image really is none. I spent most of my life portraying an image that doesn't truly represent who I am. And that's true. I mean, if you're a little older, you remember those Spice commercials. I can't quite put a finger on a specific point in my life where I decided to embrace the streets. I know my environment definitely played a huge role. I grew up with both parents in the house. My father did what he was supposed to do by going to work and trying his best to provide for us. Okay, I'm a skip over some of this stuff just because some of the stuff you're gonna have to read the book to get. And so I'm just want to hit the main things and the main points where I'm trying to work. I mean, what I'm trying to get out to y'all is about image. Hold on, let me see. Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna skip one page and I'm going to. I talked about music a little bit. I'm going to to the closer. No, not to the closer. Skip a little ahead. Okay. Who's responsible for your image? That's like a one line, paragraph towards like the end of this chapter. And they say our environment plays a huge role on our image. We have no control of where we are born or the neighborhoods we grow up in. We can't control anything outside of our own homes. So it's only human nature to conform with the rest of our environment. We do this to fit in, to make our lives easier. That's why you may hear people say they were born into this drug dealing. That's why you might hear people say they were born into drug dealing, gangbanger, or robbery. Every hood has something they're known for. It's just living in those places make you guilty by association sometimes. My environment was just like anybody else's who grew up poor. We lived in the projects, public housing until I was 7. Then we moved to a huge apartment complex. It was supposed to be a step up, but it was the same thing. We were still poor, as were most of the people in the neighborhood. And we still struggled to keep the lights on and to put a good meal on the table and keep the roaches and rats out. We still lived in a crowded neighborhood where we couldn't escape the violence and drugs. The only difference was that most of our parents worked, so we didn't get government assistance even though we still needed it. Now, I can't lie and say your environment, and when you say that got a lot to do with how you grow up and a lot on your perception of life. And it's sad to say, like, some of our environments be so bad, that it'd be a barrier and a block for a lot of us to get over. And it'd be like a hump and a hurdle. And a lot of us don't experience nothing else to know that it's more to life than what we growing up in. And that's a major hurdle and a major thing that we got to get through sometimes, because our environment is just temporary. And our environment can be changed, and we can put ourselves in when we get to the point to where we controlling our own lives and controlling our own destiny. Because a lot of times when you're young and you only got so much control over what goes on. You only got so much control over where you stay and what you eat and what goes on outside of you. But sometimes we get to that point in our lives when we starting to do for ourselves, and we got the opportunity to change those situations, and we don't, because we really don't know what's much more out there. Or sometimes we grow up in those environments, and those environment scars, and we don't think it's nothing else out there, and we get embedded into the environment, and we turn into the stuff that that we just grew up casually seeing. We turn into the drug dealer, or we turn into the junkie, or we turn into the gangbanger, or we turn into whatever we grew up seeing, or whatever we constantly was overcame with on a daily basis. And a lot of us don't understand that we always got the power, and we always could be working on something in the back of our mind. I mean, I remember when I was young and I couldn't control certain situations. I learned from those situations at a young age, and I always told myself, when I get old enough, I'm never gonna go through that. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And some of that stuff stuck with me. Now, some of it didn't. Some of the stuff I had to bump my head and learn the hard way. But the point is, the minute we get in position to change our own lives, that's when we need to do it. Let me keep going. Okay, the next paragraph is basically paraphrase what I just did. Then, all right, now I'm gonna skip a little bit more into the book, and I'm just highlighting I'm gonna skip a little bit more in this chapter, because a lot of times, and now I'm gonna talk about finding success, because that still didn't solve anything. Finding corporate success didn't solve my identity issues. Of course, the image I wanted to portray changed as the higher I climbed the ladder of work, the more I altered it. I subconsciously sought approval, and I wanted everyone to see me as a professional. I was wearing suits when everyone else was in collar shirts. I would also try to be the first person to meetings and the last one to leave. And I would volunteer for things I didn't have passion for. I would even talk correctly and laugh at jokes that I didn't think were funny. I wanted everyone to see me as a serious guy about his business. I also wanted to seem non-threatening to people from different races and backgrounds. I didn't want anyone thinking I was a thug. That was a total contradiction to my life in the streets, where I wanted everyone to know that I was a thug. I never talked about prison or my background to anyone at work. In fact, I didn't share those aspects of my life with anyone who didn't resemble me. Even staying out of trouble and on the high road, I still had identity and image issues. I was going to work every day, achieving success, but I was scared to be myself. And see, that's the flip side of it. And that's what I'm saying. We all have identity issues, because even when I started working, I was always smart, so I never was stupid, and I always had a passion to work or a passion to be the best at whatever I was doing. So when I started working, I came up real quick, and I was real successful. I mean, I started making a lot of money. I started moving position to position. And I noticed within myself, when that started happening, I was still having identity issues, because I still want myself with people. I was doing stuff, that I know that right now and today I wouldn't do. I was laughing at stuff that wasn't funny. I was trying to overcompensate, like at the time. If people were wearing polo shirts, I wanted to come in a suit and a tie. I mean, you shouldn't go to work telling all your business in your life or anything about, to a whole bunch of people but I didn't want people to think I was a thug, so I overcompensated, because it was always a struggle to me, and something in my head that when I put down that felony on the application, that I was automatically being judged. And so once somebody gave me the opportunity to show that I wasn't, I tried my best, to keep my thoughts to myself, because I felt like I would expose myself at any time, and somebody would find out who I really was. And while with me doing that, I turned into somebody else I was. So sometimes success and the way we achieve it sometimes can have us with an image or identity that's much different than who we really is. And we should, go to work and whatever we doing, and scared to be ourselves, or scared to actually open up about who we are internally. That should never happen. At the end of the day, if you ain't content with who you are, it's identity issues, and you dealing with something, because you should be the same person. Granted, it's some things I'm gonna say at home that I won't say at work, but right now I'm more who I am. I'm the same person regardless I am. I'm not gonna try to be something I'm not, or I'm not gonna try to talk proper when I go in a certain room, or I'm gonna talk how I talk. I think that I talk intelligently, but I'm not gonna do certain things that I want. It's not me to be with you. I'm not gonna volunteer for stuff that I don't got a passion for no more. I'm not gonna say, yeah, I want to do this, but really don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna be here, but really don't want to be there. I'm more at home with who I am these days. Okay, I'm skipping to the last paragraph, just because a lot of the stuff I want y'all to read in the chapter is pretty long, so I'm just trying to highlight the key points. The last thing I have to say about image is this: you have to master the act of not giving a shit about what people think about you. You cannot control what other people are thinking, so don't worry about how other people perceive you. You shouldn't care if someone thinks you're rich or poor, fat or skinny, cool or a nerd. When you're truthful with yourself, what other people think is irrelevant. Everyone you come in contact will think something differently about you. People in the corporate world may think you're a thug because of your history, while your friends from the street may think you're soft because you want to change your life. And your family may think you'll never change. Your job is to let them think what they want while you focus on the things that are important to you. The only opinions that matter should be from our family and friends. Even then, we have to realize that those are still only opinions and not laws. Not laws to live by. When I look in the mirror today, I know who I am and I take full credit for the image I portray. I'm a father, a leader, a mentor, a teacher, and a follower of the Most High God. There is no confusion on where I'm trying to go or how I'll get there. I don't care how people who do not affect my life view me. I spend too much of my life portraying someone who's not true to my core identity. Once you find out who you want to become, you have to bury the old version of yourself and make space for the new you to grow. And at the end of the day, that's something we just got to know. I mean, at the end of the day, we get a lot of perceptions thrown on us, and a lot of people's wanted to be this, and a lot of people's want to be that, and a lot of people's want us to be who they want us to be. And we got to know all that's cool, but we got to be cool with ourselves, and it's got to be what we want first, and it's got to be something that align with us. That's gonna give us make us the best version of us that we can be. Ain't no use to you being, I mean, this is just an example. If you're a great basketball player, but you even a better football player, but everybody else wants you to play basketball, so you just go along playing basketball, even though your passion is in football, and you might not even be a better football player, but you your best version of yourself when you playing football. You like the teamwork, you like the grind, you like the dedication, you like the hard work to go into it. Even though you're a better basketball player and people want you to play basketball, you shouldn't play basketball. If football fits who you is and that's your core identity. So at the end of the day, we got to do the things that completes us in the inside. And we got to do the things that we want to do, and we can't let everybody else's perception, change our, identity and change our image. And I'm just gonna highlight the recaps real quick. Number one, you are responsible for your identity and image. Number two, find out who you are and who you want to become. And number three, you have to bury the old you so that the new you can grow. And I just want to comment on number three. You definitely got to bury the old you. You know what I'm saying? Whatever don't coincide with your future and what you try to do, you just got to bury it. And that's tough for a lot of us to just leave something in the past, because sometimes we feel like we're leaving somebody, or we think about how somebody else gonna react to us doing something different, and sometimes you just gotta bury your past. I mean, you can't expect something new to grow if you still holding on to the old things that held you back. And you can pick up this book at TerrenceMcKinneyJr.com. It's Don't Let That Felony Stop You. It's a real deep book. I thought I was going to be able to read that whole chapter and comment, but some of the things you're going to have to actually get the book to hear. And I just wanted to go over image and identity today, just because that's something that everybody in life go through some type of way or some type of way. I mean, some type of way everybody's had an issue with their image or their identity, and they know somebody else that had a issue with their image or their identity. Again, TerrenceMcKinneyJr.com. I will get this book mailed out to you in 24 to 48 hours. It's a quick read. It's maybe like 110 pages, and I'll get it mailed out in 24 to 48 hours. You will get it in 3 to 4 days. For everybody watching this video and made it to this point, please like, share, comment, and if you feel like it, if you ain't subscribed to the page, please subscribe to the page. And I just want to end on that note and have a great day, real